I used to think the worst part of summer was boredom, but that was before I agreed to house sit for my brother and ended up under the same roof as his best friend Ryan. It started out simple. My brother and his wife were heading to Europe for 3 weeks, some anniversary trip they'd been planning forever. Their place was this modern 2-story house in the suburbs, complete with big windows, a backyard pool, and a fridge packed with leftovers. Sounded like the perfect break from my noisy apartment and shitty internet. The catch? Ryan was also staying there. I didn't know that when I said yes. I pulled into the driveway with a duffel bag slung over my shoulder, expecting an empty house. Instead, I saw Ryan sitting on a deck chair out back, shirtless, sunglasses on, beer in hand like he belonged there. Which, I guess, he kinda did. He and my brother had been friends since middle school. I stepped inside, set my bag down, and made my way to the patio. "You're here," he said without looking up. "They said you were coming." I squinted at him. "Wait, are you living here too?" He nodded and took a sip of his beer. "For a bit. My lease ended. Your brother offered the guest room. Great. Just great. We weren't strangers or anything. I'd known Ryan since I was like 12. He was always around. Taller, louder, older. The guy who teased me about my braces and called me shrimp. But that was years ago. Now I was 24, not a shrimp anymore. And Ryan? Still taller, still built like a college quarterback, and still way too comfortable being half naked in someone else's house. The first few days were fine. We didn't talk much. I worked from the dining room. He did whatever it is he does. Something in tech, I think. We moved around each other like polite roommates. Shared some dinners. Watched a movie or two. But then things started to shift. He'd walk into a room and stand just a little too close. Our arms would brush when we passed in the hallway, and he wouldn't pull away. Sometimes I'd catch him looking at me, really looking, before glancing off like it was nothing. I tried to brush it off. I wasn't about to start reading into harmless roommate moments, but the weirdness kept building. Then came the night that changed everything. I was in the living room, stretched out on the couch, watching a late-night reality show. It was past midnight, and I figured Ryan was asleep until I heard the sliding door open behind me. He came in from the patio, still shirtless, skin damp from the pool. "You still up?" he asked, grabbing a towel off the back of a chair. "Yeah," I said, trying not to stare at the way his shorts clung to his hips. "Just watching trash TV." "Cool," he said. "Mind if I join?" He didn't wait for an answer, just sat down next to me, close enough that his knee brushed mine. I kept my eyes on the screen, trying to act casual. We sat there in silence for a while. At some point, he leaned back, stretching his arm across the top of the couch behind me. His fingers were inches from my neck. Then he spoke. "You're acting different lately." I frowned. "What?" "You're quiet, like around me." "I live here now," I said, laughing awkwardly. "Didn't know I had to entertain you." "No, it's not that. Just, I don't know. You don't look at me the way you used to." I turned to face him, confused. "What does that mean?" He met my eyes and, for once, didn't look away. "You used to look at me like I annoyed the shit out of you. Now? You barely look at me at all." I swallowed, heart thudding in my chest. It's not bad," he said quickly. "I just noticed stuff." I didn't know what to say to that, so I looked back at the TV, pretending I wasn't spiraling internally. A few minutes passed. He didn't move. His fingers grazed the back of my neck once, lightly, like it was an accident. I tensed. "You cold?" he asked. "No," I said, my voice quieter than I meant. He didn't reply, just shifted slightly, his knee pressing more firmly into mine. Eventually, I got up, said I was heading to bed. He nodded, didn't say much, but an hour later, just when I thought I'd finally relaxed, I heard a knock at my door. "Yeah?" I called. Ryan pushed it open, leaning in. His voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Can I sleep in here tonight?" He stood there in the doorway, backlit by the hall light, one hand braced on the frame. His hair was a little messy, like he'd been tossing around in bed. He had on a plain white t-shirt and soft gray pajama pants that hung low on his hips. I sat up in bed, suddenly way too aware of the way my sheets clung to me. Why? He rubbed the back of his neck. AC's being weird again in the guest room. I can't fall asleep. And I don't know. I don't feel like sleeping alone. That last part hung there. He said it so casually, like it didn't mean anything. Yeah, I said before my brain could catch up. Sure, whatever. He nodded, stepped inside, and closed the door behind him like it was the most normal thing in the world. I slid over to make room as he climbed into the other side of the bed. The mattress dipped slightly under his weight. The distance between us felt both too much and not enough. He didn't say anything for a while. Neither of us did. Just the sound of the ceiling fan spinning above us and the distant hum of the refrigerator downstairs. Then I heard him exhale, low and steady. You always keep it this cold in here? He asked. Helps me sleep, I replied. Silence again. And then, I'm not gonna lie, he said, his voice almost a whisper. This feels weird. I turned to look at him. You being in my bed? Yeah. Then why'd you ask? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he shifted slightly, rolling onto his side to face me. I don't know. Just wanted to. I stared at the ceiling. My chest felt tight. Want me to go? He asked after a beat. No, I said quickly. It's fine. He was quiet again. Then, softly, you smell good. That made my breath hitch. I didn't respond. I didn't know how. He didn't push it. Just let the silence settle again. But he didn't roll back over either. I could feel his gaze on the side of my face. Eventually, I turned toward him, meeting his eyes in the dim light. He didn't look away. I expected him to smirk, to laugh it off, to make a joke like he always did. But his expression was unreadable, calm, serious. I've been thinking about this for a while, he said. I didn't even know what this meant. Sharing a bed, the tension between us, the way he was looking at me now, like he wasn't scared of being caught, like he wanted me to know. I swallowed. Thinking about what? His hand moved slightly under the covers, just enough to rest against my wrist. Barely a touch, just his fingertips brushing mine. You, he said. That word hit me harder than I expected. My voice came out quieter than I wanted. Are you drunk? No, he said. I'm not drunk. Then what are you doing? He didn't move. Just looked at me. I don't know. I keep thinking about that night on the couch. When you got up to get more chips, and I watched you walk away. And I remember thinking, shit, this guy isn't my best friend's little brother anymore. I blinked. What? I mean, I've known you forever. I always thought of you like a kid. But you're not, and that's been messing with my head. I sat up slightly, trying to clear the fog in my brain. Ryan. I know it's weird, he interrupted, sitting up too. I know I shouldn't have said anything. I didn't want to pretend like I didn't feel it anymore. I stared at him, and I saw it. The hesitation in his eyes, the way his jaw tightened like he was bracing for rejection. What do you feel? I asked. His breath hitched. He leaned in slowly, and just when I thought he might stop, might back off. His lips brushed mine. It wasn't a full kiss. Not at first, just the ghost of one. Like he was asking a question and waiting for my answer. And when I didn't pull away, he kissed me again. Softer this time. More sure. It didn't feel like how I thought it would. It felt better, like something I didn't even realize I needed until it was happening. When we pulled apart, we were both breathing harder than before. My hand was still against his. His thumb traced circles on my skin. I shouldn't have done that, he whispered. But you did, I said. And neither of us moved. We didn't talk much after the kiss. He stayed close, still sitting upright beside me, our hands barely touching under the covers. It was like we were both waiting for the other to take it back, to call it a joke, a mistake, anything to undo the moment. But neither of us did. Eventually, we laid back down, still facing each other. The room was warm, but not from the air. It was something heavier, something sitting between us in the dark. I watched his eyes flutter shut, his breathing slow and even, and for the first time since he'd knocked on my door, it hit me. I wasn't nervous anymore. I didn't fall asleep easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept replaying it. His lips, the way his hand had found mine without hesitation, like it had been waiting to do that all along. Somewhere around 2 a.m., I finally drifted off. When I woke up, the sun was barely up, casting pale stripes across the bed through the blinds. I was on my side, and Ryan was still beside me, closer than before. Sometime during the night, he'd rolled toward me, one of his legs tangled with mine, his arm resting across my waist like it belonged there. I didn't move. I should have, maybe, but I didn't. I stayed still, watching the soft rise and fall of his chest, feeling the weight of him pressed against my side. His face looked peaceful in sleep, relaxed in a way I didn't usually get to see. It was the kind of moment you don't want to interrupt. Eventually, he stirred. His hand twitched on my waist, then tightened slightly before he realized where it was. He opened his eyes slowly. Our eyes met. Neither of us said anything. Then, finally, he exhaled through his nose and gave a small, crooked smile. "Morning. Hey, you sleep okay?" "Yeah, I lied. You?" He nodded. "Better than I have in weeks." We didn't talk about the kiss right away. We got up, took turns in the bathroom, made coffee in the kind of quiet that wasn't uncomfortable but definitely wasn't normal. It was loaded. He leaned against the counter while I waited for the toast to pop. He was still in his t-shirt and pajama pants, but something about him looked different. Softer, maybe. Or maybe I was just seeing him differently now. Finally, he broke the silence. "So, about last night," I tensed slightly. "Yeah." He rubbed his jaw like he didn't know where to start. "Did I cross a line?" I looked at him. "Do you think you did?" He shrugged, but there was tension in his shoulders. "I don't know. It felt right at the time, but I don't want you to feel weird. I don't want to make this uncomfortable." "It's not," I said, and I meant it. "It's just a lot." He nodded. "Yeah, I get that." The toast popped, startling both of us, and we laughed. Finally, and it broke some of the pressure in the air. We ate at the table, side by side, like we had 100 times already. But something had shifted. The space between us wasn't just filled with quiet anymore. It was full of everything unspoken. He looked over at me while he chewed. "You know, I've been trying not to think about you like that for a while now." I blinked. "Like what?" "Like, someone I want. Someone I date. I mean, I always thought of you as my best friend's younger brother. But lately, I don't know, you're different." I didn't know what to say. I felt like every part of me was wide open, exposed. "I'm still the same guy," I muttered. "Maybe," he said, "but I'm not." That made me look up. He met my gaze, steady. "I've been figuring shit out. About myself. About who I am. And I don't know where this goes, or what it means for us. But I don't want to pretend anymore." I didn't expect him to be this honest. Or maybe I didn't expect him to be this brave. "You don't have to have it all figured out," I said quietly. He smiled again, softer this time. "You're not mad?" "Mad?" I almost laughed. "I kissed you back, remember?" "Right," he said, grinning now. "You did." And just like that, the tension shifted into something lighter. He leaned back in his chair, stretching, his shirt riding up slightly. I tried not to look. I failed. He caught me. "What?" I said, trying to play it off. "Nothing," he said, still smirking. "Just, you've got that look." "What look?" "That look like you're trying not to think about kissing me again?" I rolled my eyes. "You're annoying." "Uh-huh." He stood up, grabbed our plates, and took them to the sink. I watched him move around the kitchen like he belonged there. When he turned back, his expression had changed again. more serious. I meant what I said, he added. I don't want to pretend. Not with you, I nodded. Okay. And for the first time, it felt like maybe we were finally on the same page. That day passed in a blur. We didn't kiss again. We didn't even touch, really. But something had definitely changed between us. There was an awareness now in the way we moved around each other. A new kind of gravity. Even in the most normal moments. Watching TV, cooking lunch, sitting out by the pool. There was this quiet pulse running under everything. Something unspoken, but undeniable. Around sunset, I was in the kitchen cleaning up when Ryan came in from the patio, still damp from a quick swim. Towel slung over his shoulder. He watched me rinse a glass and said, "You always this domestic?" "Only when people eat all my chips and leave the bag open." He laughed. Guilty. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes on me, like he was trying to read something in my face. I could feel him watching me as I dried my hands and tossed the towel aside. "You're different today," he said. I turned to him. "How so?" "Quieter, like you're holding your breath or waiting for something," I shrugged. "Maybe I am." He pushed off the counter and stepped closer the way he always did, like he didn't believe in personal space. "Waiting for what?" he asked. I swallowed. "You tell me." We were standing inches apart now. I could feel the warmth coming off his skin, see the small droplets of water on his neck. My pulse was loud in my ears. Then he asked it. "You scared this is just a phase for me?" I blinked. The question caught me off guard. "What?" He held my gaze, no smirk this time. "I've never done this before. With a guy. And I know what it looks like. Like maybe I'm just experimenting. Or confused. And I know that can mess people up." I didn't answer right away. I could hear the rawness in his voice. He was trying. Really trying, to be honest. "You think I'm just some checkpoint on your identity map?" I asked, careful to keep my tone neutral. He shook his head. "No, I think I'm really into you. That's what I think." That silenced me. Not because I didn't believe it, but because of how badly I wanted to believe it. "I guess I've just learned not to get my hopes up," I said. Ryan stepped even closer. "Well, I'm telling you not to hide them around me." We were quiet again. Then, almost casually, he reached out and rested his hand on my waist. Not grabbing, not pushing, just holding me there, like an anchor. "I've liked you for a while," he added. "I didn't know what to do with it. I kept making jokes or brushing it off. But then I'd see you come down the stairs in the morning, rubbing your eyes, hair all messed up, wearing that stupid oversized hoodie, and I'd think, damn. He looks good like that." I huffed out a laugh. "That hoodie's not stupid." "It is," he said, grinning. "But you still look good in it." His hand slid a little higher up my side. Not urgent, just steady. My breath hitched. "You sure you're not just bored?" I teased, though my voice was shakier than I meant it to be. "I'm a lot of things," he said. "Bored isn't one of them." Then he kissed me again. This time it wasn't a question. It wasn't nervous or hesitant. It was slow and warm and certain. The kind of kiss that says, "I've been thinking about this longer than I want to admit." His other hand came up to my jaw, fingers brushing my skin so lightly it made my chest ache. I kissed him back, leaning into it, feeling his body align with mine, chest to chest, no space between us. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathless. His forehead rested against mine. "Can I sleep in your bed again tonight?" he asked softly. "Yeah," I whispered. This time, when we got under the covers, we didn't lie stiffly on opposite sides. We didn't pretend to need space. He pulled me into him like he'd been waiting to do it forever, my back pressed to his chest, one of his arms draped over me. I felt his lips brush the back of my neck, and this time I didn't freeze. I just smiled and let my eyes close. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to guard myself. I didn't feel like I was waiting for the floor to drop out. I just felt safe. The next morning, things weren't awkward. That was the first surprise. Ryan was already up when I rolled out of bed. I found him in the kitchen making scrambled eggs, barefoot, shirtless, like some accidental fantasy. He looked over his shoulder and gave me a lazy grin. "Sleep okay?" "Better than okay," I said, voice still groggy. He slid a plate toward me without a word and poured 2 mugs of coffee. No weirdness, no tension, just us, like we'd been doing this forever. We ate in the kind of silence that felt full, not empty. "So," he said between bites, "do we talk about it?" I paused, fork hovering midair. "Talk about what?" He gave me a look. "You know what? I mean, do you want to?" "I kind of feel like I should," he admitted. "Like it's the grown-up thing to do." I nodded. "All right, let's do it. Let's have the talk." He set his fork down and leaned back. "Okay, so, we kissed. Twice, slept in the same bed. Thrice?" "3 times, technically," I corrected. "Right, 3. And I think about kissing you again every time I look at you." I blinked. "Okay, wow, straight to the point." He shrugged, trying to be honest. I set my fork down too. "I'm glad you are. But I need to ask, what is this to you? What are we doing?" He didn't flinch. "I don't know yet, but it's not just some summer fling. Not for me. Even if my brother finds out," that made him laugh quietly. "Your brother's gonna lose his mind. But I'll deal with that. This is about you and me, not him." I couldn't help it. I smiled. "You sure you're ready for the drama?" He gave me a pointed look. "You think I'd be here, in your bed, cooking you eggs like some shirtless domestic husband, if I wasn't serious?" I laughed. "Fair." He stepped around the island and came to stand in front of me, resting his hands on either side of my stool. "I don't have a label for what this is yet. I don't want to rush it, but I know I want more of it." "Yeah?" "Yeah. I want to know what it feels like to kiss you when we're not hiding in the dark. I want to wake up next to you and not pretend it didn't happen. I want to figure this out. With you." That did something to me. Made my throat tighten. "You're really bad at pretending," I said, smiling. "I know," he said, grinning back. "So maybe I should stop trying." He leaned in and kissed me again, soft and sure, and this time it didn't feel like a maybe. It felt like a yes. We spent the next few days orbiting closer, without any grand declarations or big conversations. It was in the little things. The way he started making coffee the way I liked it, how he'd sit next to me on the couch and rest his hand on my knee without thinking. We didn't tell anyone. Not yet. It wasn't about secrecy. It was about us getting used to whatever this was before we opened it up to the outside world. And it felt good, easy, until the night everything threatened to go sideways. It was late. We were watching a movie, feet tangled under a blanket, his hand on my thigh, mine curled into his hoodie. We were halfway through some dumb comedy when headlights swept across the living room window. We both sat up. A second later, the front door opened. My brother's voice rang out. "Hello, we're back early! Surprise!" Ryan and I stared at each other, frozen. Then we scrambled in opposite directions. He jumped up and pretended to be adjusting the thermostat. I tossed the blanket off and moved to the other end of the couch like it was the most natural thing in the world, to be sitting several feet away from the guy I just had my tongue in less than an hour ago. My brother and his wife walked in, dragging suitcases and laughing. Ryan was the first to speak. "Hey, you guys are early!" "Yeah," my brother said, setting his bags down. "Flight got changed. Figured we'd surprise you." He turned to me. "What's up, man? House still standing?" "Barely," I said, trying to smile normally. Ryan almost burned it down making eggs. My brother laughed, and for a moment, it worked. The act held. But I could feel it. The tension twisting in my chest, the way Ryan avoided looking at me. The fear that this little bubble we'd built over the past few days had just popped. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on the edge of my mattress, staring at the floor. Then a knock. Soft. Ryan slipped in, closing the door behind him. Hey. I didn't want to go to sleep without seeing you." I stood up. "I thought maybe we were back to pretending." He shook his head. "No, I'm not going back. I just didn't know how to play it tonight. Caught me off guard. Same. He walked over, stood in front of me, close but not touching. Do you regret it? I asked. No, he said. I want to do it right. I want to keep you. Not just hook up and vanish when things get tricky. I reached for his hand. He let me take it. You don't have to figure everything out right now, I said. Just don't walk away. He squeezed my hand. I'm not going anywhere. And this time, we didn't sleep in separate beds. We didn't hide. Not from each other anyway. The next morning, we woke up tangled together. His arms slung over my chest, my leg between his. The sun was already high, casting slanted light across the room, and I could hear the faint sounds of movement downstairs, the clink of a spoon against a mug, my brother's voice humming along to something on the radio. Ryan didn't move at first. He just let out a soft breath and pressed his face closer to my neck. I should probably sneak back to the guest room, he murmured. Probably, I said. Neither of us moved. We stayed like that for another minute, suspended in this quiet little cocoon where the rest of the world couldn't reach us. But the tension was creeping in. It was inevitable. There was no more house to ourselves, no more pretending no one else was watching. Eventually, he sighed and sat up. This is gonna get complicated, isn't it? Maybe. But complicated isn't always bad. He looked down at me and smiled, eyes soft. You're handling this way better than I am. You're just not used to being the one with feelings, I teased. He laughed under his breath. Shut up! He pulled on a hoodie and slipped out of the room quietly, leaving the door just slightly ajar like nothing had happened. But something had happened, and it wasn't going away. We played it cool for the rest of the day. Or tried to. My brother didn't notice anything at first. He was busy unpacking, sorting mail, complaining about how many emails had piled up. Ryan and I were careful. No lingering touches, no obvious glances. But it was different now. There was something magnetic pulling us together, and pretending otherwise was starting to feel stupid. That evening, we were all sitting on the back patio, drinking beers, watching the sun dip behind the trees. My brother was in full story mode, telling some wild tale from their trip, gesturing with his bottle like a tour guide on stage. Ryan was sitting beside me, our shoulders barely apart, and at one point, quietly, like it was nothing, he reached over and tapped his foot against mine under the table. Just once. But it was deliberate. My pulse spiked. Later, after my brother went inside to take a call, Ryan leaned toward me and whispered, I don't think I can keep doing this. I blinked. Doing what? This half thing. Hiding. Acting like we didn't just spend a week in each other's arms. He looked nervous, but also determined. I don't want to sneak around, he said. Not with you. There was a lump in my throat. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until he said it. You sure? I asked. Yeah, he said. I mean, I'm still figuring things out, but I know I'm not confused about you. I nodded slowly. Then maybe it's time we stop pretending. He smiled, that crooked, boyish grin that always got to me. You want to tell him together? Hell no, I said. You get to break the news. He laughed. Fair. That night, after dinner, we pulled my brother aside. I let Ryan do the talking. He didn't sugarcoat it, but he was gentle. Honest. Said we'd gotten close over the past few weeks. That it wasn't a joke or a fling. That he wanted to see where it could go. My brother stared at us for a long moment. Then he blinked and said, Okay, but if I ever catch you two making out in my kitchen, I'm moving out of the country. We all laughed. And just like that, it wasn't a secret anymore. The relief was instant, like someone had exhaled a breath we didn't realize we'd been holding. We weren't just two guys sharing a house anymore. We were something else. After that night, things got easier, realer. No more sneaking down hallways or pretending we weren't catching each other's gaze at dinner. No more lying awake wondering if what we had was just in our heads. The quiet tension that had built for weeks was replaced with something warmer, something solid. We weren't calling it anything yet. Boyfriends, partners, labels didn't matter. Not right away. What mattered was that we were both in it. Fully. My brother didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. He just told us not to break anything while he and his wife finished the rest of their vacation, And then, with a smirk, reminded Ryan that if he hurt me, he'd be sleeping in the garage for life. The joke didn't land for me until later, when I realized just how serious Ryan was about not messing this up. He didn't just fall into bed with me and disappear. He started showing up in small, consistent ways, little rituals that felt personal, intimate. The way he'd always bring me a cup of coffee even if I hadn't asked. The way he'd pull me into his side on the couch without thinking. How he started keeping his hoodie on my chair like it belonged there. One afternoon, we were sitting out by the pool, bare feet dangling in the water, music playing low from the patio speaker. Ryan looked over at me, sunglasses perched on his head, and said, "You know what I used to think about?" I glanced at him. "What?" He hesitated, then said, "How weird it would be if I ever caught feelings for you." I laughed. "Gee, thanks." No. I mean, it scared me. Because you weren't just anyone. You were off limits. You were his little brother. And I figured if I ever crossed that line, I'd screw everything up. "You kinda did," I teased. He smirked. "Yeah, but in the best way." He turned to face me fully, his hand brushing against mine. "This doesn't feel weird anymore. It just feels right." I nodded. Same, and it did. Some nights, we'd lie in bed and just talk. About college, about what we wanted, about where this might go. Other nights, we wouldn't talk at all, just lay tangled up in each other, the silence between us saying more than words ever could. One night near the end of summer, we were lying out on the grass in the backyard, watching stars pop into the sky one by one. I could feel his hand next to mine, our pinkies just barely touching. "Feels weird," I said. "What does?" "That I'm gonna have to go back to my apartment soon. Back to my routine." He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "You don't have to." I turned my head. "What do you mean?" "I mean, stay, move in, or I'll move in with you. Whatever works. He paused. "I don't want this to end just because summer does." The way he said it, simple, not dramatic, but honest. It hit me right in the chest. I don't want it to end either. He looked at me, eyes soft in the moonlight. "So let's not let it." And just like that, we weren't a summer thing. We were something real. It didn't start out like a love story. It started with a favor, a spare room, a casual knock on the door. But it turned into late-night conversations, shared coffee, stolen glances, quiet mornings, and warm skin under shared blankets. It turned into laughter, trust, and a kind of comfort I didn't know I was missing. It turned into Ryan. And it turned into us.